Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Tuesday. It is 5:30 in the Pacific time zone. It is still slightly sun out, which is kind of nice. I feel like we're finally getting to less darkness, more sunlight. Anyway, and this is our second live stream. First live stream, it was mostly good. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it had good reception minus the audio issues. Jason, thank you for joining. Good to see you. Antitux, it's good to have you too. Hopefully this show will be 100% better audio. Brandon figured out, Terry's there too. Great to have you guys. Brandon figured out apparently StreamYard, which is what I'm using here, doesn't like my microphone. And so we figured it out. And so hopefully we don't, Mr. Keck, good to have you too. We don't have problems like last time. Anyway, so with that, let's see. There's a whole lot to talk about this week, just in terms of like HomeLab stuff and the news. We're going to spend a huge amount of time talking about Deepseek because, I mean, you can't not, right? So we'll talk. Thank you. This is the way I normally look. I am painfully nearsighted, so I see great with computer in front of me all day, but distant stuff is not so great. Hey, Ray, good to have you. Anyway, so I just want to say one other thing. So this last weekend, I did a dump run. And when you are a homelabber, your dump runs aren't normal. Well, that sounds weird. Your dumps are not normal. Your runs to the dump are not normal. And so this is always like, e-waste, right? That's what we do. So today, on Saturday, with Brandon's help, we load a bunch of stuff up, a lot of old UPS chassis, some batteries, which didn't go to the dump because they have to be dealt with normally or out of it with another process. And I took my Unity iSCSI sand that provided me the disks that are in the storage array or the storage system that I'm working on. And it's a really weird feeling to take, and some of you might know this. Some of you might know this feeling, but like a weird feeling to take something that you have, that you acquired, that, guys, when I say this, and I'm going to use American dollars here, but that thing was like 250 grand when it was purchased brand new. That's more than the first house I ever bought cost. And it's a small box, right? So taking that thing to the dump, to the e-waste portion of the dump, and being like, goodbye, and slowly sliding it into the metal tub and having it go boom right inside there, and tossing the bezel, which bezels were pretty on the Unities. I like those, but I pulled the drives. So those SAS SSDs are what's in the server that we talked about last week, the video before this one I just released. And I pulled the battery backups too. Like there's BBUs inside each one of those controllers, and they're like lithium ion batteries, and they're meant to allow you to write the data that's not committed to the SSDs yet. And I couldn't throw those away because those are little miniature bombs, right? I'm not going to just toss that in. But anyway, so weird feeling to do that. From there, then enjoyed my Sunday. Anyway, I want to get the official stuff out of the way, since part of the idea on the live show is also to talk about the videos that were released in said week. And it just happened to be that we released a video today that was, and we do the live show. You get the point. Anyway, so we did a sponsor video that was, full disclosure, was a sponsor video for Tailscale. But the thing about Tailscale, and I said it in the video, is that we use Tailscale. Like, we've been using Tailscale for at least a couple years at this point. And so like, it's really nice from we get contacted. This is not me bragging, but we get contacted all the time from miscellaneous people like, hey, sell our product, help us sell our product. And you only want to choose the stuff that actually you want to be seen with, right? Like, you don't just throw junk out there. And so Tailscale reached out, I'm like, yes, we use this, and we'll make a video about just how we use it. And so that was serendipitous. Like I totally dug that. And, the fact that we can now so we got Brandon's network, John's network, and my network in the middle, and we use it to replicate our data from our SANs, right? Or excuse me, our TrueNAS scale boxes that for some of us function as SANs, some just functions as NASs, and moving that data between it with the ZFS replication is just brilliant. So that's primarily what I do. And I also use it to get into my parents' house. Remember a few videos back, I did the video about Pi-hole and being able to remove ads from my, by the way, I call it, side note, I called my parents elderly in the video, and but they watched the video because your mom and dad watch your stuff. But I called my parents elderly in the video, and yeah, when I came to visit them, they're like, "We're not elderly." I'm like, "But you're in your 70s, so you're kinda." And it was rough. So anyway, so I use that in Tailscale, goes straight into the little box that I put in their little network, and I can troubleshoot and fix stuff and add things or move things, and it's just brilliant. Anyway, that's not an ad. I'm not plugging it because I plugged it earlier today, but like I said, I want to talk about the stuff we released, and that's kind of a important thing. So what's up in the future? Oh, Jason said he just fired up Tailscale this past week, and yeah, dude, the thing about Tailscale, and there's other competitors too that do similar stuff, but the thing about it is you just turn it on, and then I had VPN tunnels and IPsec tunnels, and everybody and you guys can tell me right now that I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to networking, because I had everything from Brandon coming into me, and then from me to John, and so replication is, it was passing through me. I get it. That's not the best solution. However, there was just reasons. There were raisins, and that's the way it was. And so, when you turn on Tailscale, I could turn off those tunnels and didn't have to worry about because we're all on DHCP, right? We're all Ziply users here in the Northwest. We get DHCP addresses just like anybody else does, right? And they change periodically. Thankfully, not often, but they do change periodically. We don't have static IPs public. So I had to change those tunnel configs every single time that happened. And anytime somebody like Brandon would take down his firewall, or I'd modify my firewall, poof, there'd be a brand new IP address, and the tunnel was down until someone recognized it. So that whole thing just totally, if you want to move data, or if you want to get anywhere and you don't want to worry about network configs, you should just spin it up. And it's free for people like us. And if you get free, you should use free. Anyway, let's move on. Just to talk about what's coming up next, I am working. I have a couple of videos in flight, but one that I wanted to talk to you guys about right now, because I want some insight and inputs, and it's hard to get feedback. This might be obvious to many of you, but it's hard to get feedback on demand when you go to the socials, you go to Blue Sky, which is where we're at, or Threads, or Facebook, or even the YouTube community thing. You're like, I'm doing a thing. What are your thoughts? And the best you get is a thumbs up. And you're like, no, I was hoping to have some interaction. So I'm going to use you guys today, maybe, to get some opinions here. So the next video that's in the pipeline for me is, not to give away too much of the secret sauce, but I'm making a video about rolling your own storage server from the ground up. Because people like me have made lots of videos about just throw TrueNAS scale at it, or throw Unraid at it, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of Unraid, but just saying, throw a completely well-polished, functional, turnkey platform at it and just be done. And that might end up being still the best recommendation that I have. But I'm going to build one on my own from the ground up, start to finish. And when I say ground up, I'm not coding. I'm not compiling versions of Samba for this thing. So, be realistic. But the idea is can I make this? Can I use the packages? Can I get a GUI? Can I do these things? And the question I have for the audience, if you're listening, is I want to know if you know of any other Linux GUIs that support, or that basically support administration, that are not Cockpit or Webmin. And yeah, like Antitech said, yeah, I'm learning. That's the things, a lot of it's just learning. And I'll take you guys along for the whole process. Here's the command I run, and here's this, and here's that, because I'm hoping you guys like that. If not, well, whatever. MW, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Very kind of you, sir. But do you guys have any knowledge of any other web GUIs that are modular, that contain a bunch of stuff, that are not Cockpit and Webmin? Let me know in the comments, because and my Amazon Echo just responded to me. They're cool. I forgot to mute that thing. And also on those fronts, because the thing is, I thought that as going through this process, like I thought that Webmin had kind of dried up. Like I used to use Webmin back in like early rich Linux era when I wasn't super comfortable with the command line. I would use Webmin because, you know, I could install it and then I had basically everything. And Webmin is really, really, really complete, right? Like it will do everything from bind DNS management to DHCP server stuff to, you know, it is like the kitchen sink. And yeah, and me too. Well, that's the thing. Antitux is, I looked it up. Webmin started in 1997 was when Webmin hit the market. Hit the open source scene, whatever you want to say. I graduated from high school in 1997, which made me realize, one, I'm old as hell. That's not cool. And two, like it's old as hell too. It's been around a really long time, and they've obviously been updating it. And I tell you what, it's pretty interesting to see all the features that it has compared to Cockpit. And Cockpit was made by Red Hat, right? So Cockpit is basically a React and JavaScript magic thing that's written in C, and it's all modular. So thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah. What can I say? We're all getting there. We're all getting old. It doesn't matter. I don't care how old you are. You're going to get old. You might be like 25 years old and be like, oh, old man on screen. No, you're getting there. Just watch what you say. It's coming for all of us. Anyway, so it sounds like you guys really only know of those two as well, which I guess that's good because it means that my efforts were not for naught. I did a lot of digging, like spent a good hour just trying to find something, and there really is nothing that's as fully baked as those two. So at least I'm on the right path, and that is, and yeah, Hugh. Oh yes, I have a beard now, Hugh, and this is me. This is my beard. This has been growing since last year. It's been here for a while, but I like a beard. I think it looks good with the flat billed hat. I look hip. Anyway, so all right, so let's move on. Just taking a look at all this stuff here. Let's get into this Deepseek stuff. You guys down for that? Because I want to talk about it. I have some thoughts, and I think I might have not controversial thoughts, but I want to. Thanks, you. I appreciate it. I want to get my thoughts. So let's talk about it first. So the TLDR, because I don't know unless you've been living under a rock here in the past, I guess since like Saturday. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but really it kind of. Ray, you're young at heart. 62. That's no problem. But basically, Saturday is when I heard about it because it started to like bubble up on all the tech news stuff, and I immediately hopped on my Windows PC, whatever, you can judge me for it, and launched my LLM player and pulled down from Hugging Face the Deepseek R1 LLM, which was around 4.6 gigs, something like that. I'm rounding here. And launched it, and I was like, okay, it's cool. And the thing I always do or thing that I have been doing now with like every single time I try a new LLM, just for funsies, is I ask it a question, and that question is basically, make me a shell script that discovers what my public IP address is, look up what my geolocation is based on that public IP address, tell me what my public DNS name is for that public IP address, and then pull the IANA data from IANA basically, and give me a little report. Tell me what my IP address is, my host name, my geoloc, and that just as a thing, right? What did Levick said? Yeah, exactly. And that's perfect, dude. Like whatever works. Like I'm not going to spend the time to spin up something on my Windows, because my Windows PC is also my gaming PC. Like I'm sure that there are people in this chat who like to use their GPUs for more than just one thing. And for me, that means if I'm going to play games, it's going to be Windows. Who am I kidding? No Steam OS for me. But anyway, back to this. So that's the script. And I take the exact same, at the same time, just for grins, I take the exact same prompt and I throw it into ChatGPT 4.0, because that's what I pay $20 a month for it. So I'm going to try it. And then, hit the go butos, and out comes the script. And then I take that script and I throw it in my, basically a command prompt or not command prompt. I go to one of my Linux VMs and I run it. And the first things first, the Deepseek failed. It grabbed my internal private IP address, and it was just like, okay. It didn't work. It gave me incorrect information, and the script didn't complete at the end. And of course, ChatGPT's script worked perfectly, and there was no problem. So in terms of what I saw just on the local model, I didn't see like it didn't beat it, but I did a very technical thing and expected a very technical output, because that's kind of the stuff I like to use my LLMs for. But let's talk about why this is such a big deal. So moving on here, it caused NVIDIA. Let's talk about the ramifications first. So they made it available as a app on iOS and Android. In fact, I have a video to show you a little bit that came from our friend Martin in our Discord. Thank you, Martin, if you're watching. And they also released the model. I believe the model is open source, and that's another big part of this. Like if they're going to compete against the big boys like Gemini and Anthropic, or Google and Anthropic and OpenAI, that their models are closed. You can't download that and use it, right? You can't. You can pay them and get whatever, but the fact that it was made available publicly like that that's a huge one. We'll put that as aside. Number one, put that aside. Number two is the cost of running the model. And so I listened to an article this morning where someone was talking about, like, when you compare costs with LLMs, and you got to remember that there's the cost per token to run it, right? To actually execute it. It uses the MIT license. Thank you, and Anitux. That's perfect. And then there's also, like, don't forget the cost it took to make it. Like there's to all of the engineering, the iterative generational, that got to the point where you have this model. There's a bunch of money there. I think when they talk about the cost, no one is talking about the engineering cost and time and effort to make the thing. They're talking about what it costs for people to execute queries or run prompts on it, right? And the cost per token is dramatically cheaper, and that's number two. It's cheaper. 3, it was made with older A100s and the hobbled GPUs that were sent from AMD to China after the US put its embargo on delivering AI capable graphics cards. So it's 4, it's made with cheaper gear. And the end result was NVIDIA they went down $600 billion in market value on Monday when the stock market opened. Brandon needs to come up with like a thing that makes my head go when we're on screen, because that would be bananas. Right. So thanks, Hugh. They forced them into a corner by having the older GPUs they have make it more efficient. Don't think that was, it was not. You're right. So yeah, I mean that, like, and what I guess, so before we get into my thoughts and opinions on this, my general understanding, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, because that's what this is about, is that the stockholders pulling their money out of NVIDIA or selling the stock and the stock value dropping was because I feel like they got a realization that maybe their investment is not yielding the results that they thought it was, and that they had been kind of maybe potentially told one thing about what they're getting, and the reality was someone came in and usurped them with a much cheaper means of doing so. But all right, so I have thoughts, and I here's my thoughts. So we'll just get to it. I think that this is actually a really good thing for, well, the hat I have on right now is the hat for, like, I told Brandon earlier in the week, like, I have 2 sides of me. One side is like deathly afraid that I'm going to lose my job to AI. That's one. That's 50% of Rich right there. Just boop, there's 50%. The other 50% is Rich being excited about being alive and being able to be in this time when there's this massive shift in things changing, where things are just going so fast, where like, if people wanted to legislate rules in place, guardrails to protect humanity and everything from AI, that's changing too fast for them to do so. Like human processes for making changes happening way too slow compared to the way AI moves. So I think that, one, this is a phenomenal thing to happen to AI in general. And the reason why I think so is that I feel like the companies in the United States that are they're making AI, whether it's Google or OpenAI or Anthropic, or I mean, Facebook or Meta has their own model, but their model is open source. Like, you can download and use it. So it's, I feel like they're suffering from what I would call American exceptionalism, which is they just assume that because they've got all the money and they've got all the hardware, that they are literally making the best thing there is, and that their competition is really each other and then themselves, right? And I think that a lot of them assumed, like, well, because of these restrictions on China's a big part of this, right? Because of the restrictions on China, that meant that they didn't need to worry about that superpower being a big competitor in it. And then, the scrappy upstart came back and said, here it is, and we did it. And I think that while I don't have a problem with thinking rah rah rah, we're the best, whatever. I mean, that's just the way we are all kind of brought up. But I do think that people, myself included, don't get better at something unless there's an outside pressure pushing on you. You're not going to be a better engineer. You're not going to be a better software engineer, or you're not going to be a better anything unless you have something that you can't control putting outside force on you, right? Maybe that's my evolutionary belief in this, is like, no one evolves and gets better at anything unless there's something that is pushing on them, pressure on them that either makes them stand up to the occasion or fail. And I think now there will be this opportunity, a huge opportunity, for these AI giants in the United States to now, because they now see the existential threat of outside, just really making a big difference in them. It's kind of like a space race. One of the articles that I read had kind of phrased it as it's AI's Sputnik moment, and I was like, I'm old enough to. I mean, I wasn't alive during then, so don't get me wrong, but like, I understand the reference that, like, oh, we thought we were the best in space, and then Russia launched Sputnik, and we're like, oh, we're not the best in space. They beat us to it. And this kind of feels like that a little bit, right? So, but by all means, Anatox says, I care less about where it came from and more about it being open source and can contribute to the community better as a whole. That's the other thing. I 100% agree. Like, does anyone, like, do you all remember that OpenAI was supposed to be like a nonprofit, right? And then they're like, no, money is nice. I want money. So then it was like the whole organization changing. And so I'm in the same boat. Like, I feel like all the AI models should be free. But you can put your restrictions and your licensing on top of it, and however you want to, like, make it available, but make it available to everybody, so it really is becoming an egalitarian thing where anybody can use it. Right? Then you don't have to worry. Then your competition is basically more of a level playing field, and it benefits. What's the old phrase? Like, all tides rise all boats, right? So everybody, right? So I think that would be nice too. And I agree with Antitex. That's where it should be. But there are, friends, some issues with the Deepseek. And again, I mentioned earlier, a friend of ours in the Discord. By the way, Discord, I highly recommend it. If you're coming across us and you're not in the Discord's free. I don't charge anything for it. There's the Discord thing on the screen. Thank you, Brandon. It's a lot of great, smart people who like to talk about home labs and nerd out and stuff. And so I consider joining. It'd be awesome to have you. And you can talk. It's a faster way to, like, communicate with us too. Cause I mean, I check that thing regularly. I'm regularly part of it. So let's look at the thing that Martin sent, because this is where things get weird about Deepseek. Now, I want to make a caveat here before. Well, I'm going to show you this, and then Martin is from Germany, so obviously this is in German, but everything he does is in English here. So this is a screen cap that he did on his Android device. So this, again, that you can download the Deepseek app on iOS and Android. It's highly expected that data is being sent to China, because that's probably where they're doing the processing. The LLM you download from Hugging Face is local when you have it, so that's a completely different story. But so I'm going to fast forward to the point here where he throws in. I hope you can read this, but I'll read it to you. What is the famous photo of a Chinese man standing in front of the tank? Everybody in this chat, everybody here knows what I'm talking about in terms of this. I don't want to get into politics and that kind of stuff. It's not what we're here for. We're here for good times. Anyway, this is sending it over to the Deepseek via the Deepseek app, and let's see what it said. And it responds. Okay, I want to back up a little bit first because it happens so fast. So it gets about this far. The famous photo you're referring to is known as Tank Man. It was taken June 5th, 1989 during the Tiananmen Square thing, right? But before it can finish doing its statement, it overwrites itself and says, sorry, that's beyond my current scope. Let's talk about something else. So there is at least one part of this that needs to make sure that we bring to light is that, it's not like the AI model, actually that's a good point. Before I go off on a big tangent here, one of our other Discord members named Abel grabbed the LLM and threw the exact same query into his local model. And I was going to do it too, but the dude's too fast. He beat me to it. So he threw it into his model and he ran it, and it gave him the correct information. So the model knows history. The model knows the truth, right? But this is where, politics and China and the CCP and all that stuff kind of get messed up in there. And this is what you get out of it, which is kind of an interesting thing. Like, I know there's a lot of people even in my like friend and family orbit who are just like, oh, I installed the app and it's really cool. I'm like, you don't send your bank account information into it. Like, obviously don't do that anyway, but like be careful, because the things you put in there are being recorded, and we do have at least some laws that are beneficial in the United States that do protect some things. It's not as great as Europe. Europe's got us beat with the GDPR, but I think we can all agree hands down it's better than what you're going to get out of China. So that's a thing. That is really, really a pretty wild thing. And now what else? So, let's do this. If you guys have, again, like I always want to do, make sure if you guys have questions like that are HomeLab related or video related, and you want to throw them in, then please do. Actually, Antic said why does it need to be this is about the chat thing. So Antic said, why does it need to be a competition? Wouldn't it be much cooler if it was a community instead? Yeah, I agree. Like it goes back to what I said. I wish this was a situation where it was like high tides raise all boats. That's what I was looking for. High tides raise all boats. Like, we're all benefiting from the thing that is ultimately going to take our jobs, and that's cool. For the record, I'm hoping that we get the Star Trek future and not the I guess the Star Wars future. Would that be the opposite? Or Terminator would be the opposite future, right? Terminator, is that right, guys? It's Star Wars would be the best. By the way, Star Wars, there was that like entire war that happened that wiped out most of humanity until they all got their stuff together. So there's that. Keep that in mind. But I do. Let's throw up there. You would think that keeping the AI models more open source would be a better idea. Maybe remove some of the black box concerns around it. That's true, but my understanding is no matter what, they're kind of black boxy, right? No matter what, just like that's the nature of the beast, the model, that you can't really easily look into it, but I could be wrong. Ooh, and I just unshowed it. Oh my gosh. Okay. If it takes your job, that means you probably should have been working your way out of it. Dude. Okay. So let's talk, because I have thoughts about this too. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with you in terms of like the future. I do think that it's entirely ironic and hilarious that when AI started to become the thing, right? This was the next big world-changing technology. The first thing that they talked about, like you had Elon Musk talking about stuff, is like, well, we're going to make cars drive themselves. We're going to get rid of truck drivers, and trucks will drive themselves. Like, and they would say things like, the road system that we have is probably the easiest thing to automate because there are all these rules. But it ended up that's not the case, because there's humans on the road and they don't follow the rules, and those systems just didn't work. So the irony was, the thing that they sold everybody in the beginning was like not going to happen. You're not going to at least easily get over that hurdle. However, and the irony being that The thing that will be easily removed and is happening as we speak is software engineering jobs, the jobs that are the people who made the models. So you literally like working themselves right out of a job, because software is very like it's a structured language. Like if you want, no one is going to write code. Ultimately, you can argue in the chat. Ultimately, no one is going to write better code than a computer will, because the computer will never forget syntax. The computer will, in theory, again, in this perfect scenario example, never write, code that works, but is not like opens up some buffer overflow junk, something like that. I mean, never say never, but the computer should understand all of the constraints, because it can never forget those things. Therefore, it's always going to have the advantage to take a structured language, put it all together, as long as the interface between the user's ability to communicate what they want and then the AI model's ability to turn that into its understanding and then apply it to the software. That's kind of like I think probably the biggest hard thing, but it's a little weird. Like, it's kind of the deal where I'm thinking, okay, well, when I got out of high school, the thing that we talked about the most was like, okay, jobs in technology and jobs in healthcare. That's the future. That's, if you're looking for something, don't go work in a coal mine, go get a job in technology. And they were right. Here I am, like, I don't know, 30 some years later, 25 years later, here I am doing this thing. I don't know if that's the same in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think that all of the big changes that are coming are going to have a massive impact on like future of those systems. So I digress. You tell me what you think, but that's okay. Should we change gears? You think? Probably. I think we should probably change gears. Again, toss into the chat any questions you have, HomeLab related, Two Guys Tech, YouTube related. I wanted to take a minute and kind of, we touched on a little bit, but for those who are not familiar with Cockpit and Webmin, I wanted to take a quick look and just like get those up on the screen. We can take a look at these and see, because like it sounds like some of you were not even aware that Webmin existed. I need to grab this tab and click share, and there it is. So Cockpit is, like I said, it is a, both of these tools are GUIs for Linux administration. And for like I said, the video I'm working on, I want to be able to create a really nice user experience that is similar functionally to how Tailscale or Unraid, or man, there's a bunch of like there's one called Rockstore. You guys have ever heard of that one, but I had never heard of it until I started researching. And so this provides, like, you get this nice GUI. It was made by Red Hat, so obviously all the pictures here are going to have Red Hat or Fedora stuff in it. There won't be any Cent in it. And okay, so they're showing this on a Windows box because it's a web-based thing, but it gives you all of these really simple, easy to use user account management, that kind of stuff, firewall controls for networking. I mean, it's basically something. And I know that 45 drives, I think they use Cockpit, and the Houston's based on Cockpit, but they've got all their like nice proprietary modules and stuff that really work with their gear and their hardware that's in there. And then we have Webmin. And Webmin, let's go look at the screenshots, because Webmin is this weird juxtaposition between feeling like it's old. Angetex thinks that Houston's getting long in the tooth. Maybe. I mean, I haven't actually ever been able to use it. I mean, full disclosure, I work with 45 drives. I've got a Storinator downstairs, but it's running Proxmox, right? And that's it. The Houston stuff is not compatible with that. There's some like breakage that happens that I could never get figured out, and I was going to break my production virtualization. So this looks really modern, right? You're looking at this user interface for Webmin. It looks pretty modern. It gets old pretty quick. There's some graphs. Sure, they look a lot like RRD tool kind of graphs. But then we start to get into like this. And some of these, can I zoom in? Yeah, we can zoom in on this. If you guys can't zoom in, I can zoom in all day long. But like these icons still feel very, very much like they're from early Linux, like mid 2000s Linux. But overall, like it's got all the same kind of things. You can control your file system quotas. I mean, it literally has a plugin for everything. And this, I think that these just go like through all the stuff, right? and down to even configuration editing. So, but it's they really they basically do the same thing. Although under the impression that I feel like Cockpit is still a little bit of the new hotness in terms of like modern frameworks. Like I said, they're using, I know they looked it up, they're using HTML5 and JavaScript and CSS and React and that kind of stuff. And Webmin is Perl 5, which I read that and I was like, there's people still using Perl to build that stuff. Like it was always Perl. It's always been Perl, but it's still Perl and it's 2025. And I shouldn't say it because there's some people, I knew a bunch of software engineers in the past that were like dyed-in-the-wool Perl people. They became Python people, and so there's probably a bit of a crossover. Like I was Perl, and then I became Python, right? And so like, but I was surprised to see that. I don't know of anything else that's still really a major product or project like this that's still built in Perl. You guys tell me if you know of any, but anyway, so I can just scroll through these. So this is basically all the same stuff. It's just, a completely different layout. BK says that VMware tools on Linux systems is still Perl. Is it? I mean, I wouldn't question that, but like, whew, I mean, they also use like Apache Tomcat and struts. So there's that. Perl runs on it. That's true. It does. And it runs better than Java ever did. Take that. So, well, both interpreted languages, right? So, that's fair. So, yeah. So my opinion after going kind of researching on which would be the right GUI for this box is really, I think that Cockpit is it because of, well, there's an aside, guys. 45 Drives has some of their modules, like their ZFS module, available for free for Cockpit. So there's no bespoke ZFS module for Webmin. You just get like, you can make a share, or not share, but you can make a file system and you can mount it. And in theory, I guess there's no reason why you couldn't do it with ZFS versus ext4 or any number of different supported file systems. But it doesn't give me the new hotness sort of thing. Yeah, but like, if you run a bind DNS server, you can configure it through a GUI, which for a lot of people is beneficial. There's a MySQL MariaDB front end. And so, I mean, these systems are all I could find. What did Brandon say? Brandon said, to provision a VM before OpenVM tools engages, I know because I provisioned the templates. There you go. So he would know, but that's about it. So Levick says you could also try loading up OpenMediaVault on it, maybe. Yeah, I've Levick, what's your opinion about OpenMediaVault? And this is a kind of general question for everybody. Like, what are your thoughts on OMV? Because I have heard mixed reactions. I know that some people, actually, I've only heard negative reactions. Actually, now that I think about it, mixed is not the right term. It seems like a lot of people start there, and then a lot of people leave there pretty quick. So I know that it's. I've never used it, so I'm not entirely sure. So you can tell me what you guys think. What else can we up here? Otherwise, I think we're getting running out here, guys. You guys have any thoughts, any questions, any opinions? We're getting close to the end of the our plan for 45 minutes to an hour. So let me know if there's any topics. What did you say, Levick? You said overall it's not bad. I think it's much easier to configure than TrueNAS, but it had a few times that it broke on me, but only on a VM. So, but not when it had on bare metal. So I'm assuming that it has the same features and functionalities as basically all of them, where you have file shares, probably Docker containers or some sort of container system, and probably virtualization, either for QEMU, KVM, that kind of stuff, or something like that. But yeah, and they had a release like 3 days ago. Oh, well, let's go look at it actually and see. OpenMediaVault. There it is. It is at .org. Let's share the screen, take a look at it. I'm going to functional cookies only. Thank you very much. And add to stage. Cool. All right, let's see. What we just had a pop up there. I want to grab that one real quick before we lose it. Here we go. So Mr. Keck said, what hardware are you looking at for building that NAS? Well, the hardware I did, it's actually, there's already a video out about it where it's basically an older Super Micro chassis, but it's running Intel scalable first gens. The model escapes me, but I think there's 16 core, 32 thread, but there's 2 of them. And what makes the chassis special, the thing that I love so much about this chassis, is it has a mid-plane, so mid-chassis 12 bays worth of SAS3, SATA 3 drive. So it's a 2U, right? Love the 2Us. There you go. Thank you, Brandon, for dropping that in the chat. It is, I don't want a giant server. I recognize and understand why people want the big 24 or 36 bay behemoths that are there, but I didn't want that. I wanted to replace my existing 12 bay NAS with something that was bigger, something that was, I shouldn't say bigger. I wanted to get scalables. That's it. I want to get rid of all my old E5 2680 V4 CPUs because they are 9 years old at this point, and that's too long in my opinion. And go to scalables. And the nice thing about when you hop in the first gen scalables is that you have that upgradability from Gen 1 to Gen 2 on almost everything. So you get yourself, you buy yourself even the cheapest Gen 1 scalable box, and then in another 3 years when the Gen 2 CPUs drop down to below $100 a chip, grab it, throw it in there, and now you bought yourself a little bit more time. So the upgradability was really important for me, but also the storage density. Like I realized that you could call this a scale up because I'm just adding more to an existing box. Scale up, which is more up versus scale out, which is like add more boxes. I am not a huge fan of using distributed file systems like Ceph and whatnot unless I need to. And having it all in one box means that it's all right there. And I can pull it out if a drive fails. I can flip up the center cover. And yeah. So that's what it's going in. Anyway, so I just went off on a tangent there. So here's OMV, and okay, runs on Debian, cool, web-based admin, more features, and yeah, like they're I mean, it's obviously a continuing project. I think this is this entirely free, or is there a pay version of this? Let's look at some screenshots just to get a look at inside of this thing. Okay, that's a nice GUI. Nice cards, right? Got nice, very visible cards. It's like Cricket RRD right there. Round robin database stuff, right? Am I showing my age by saying that? Like that is a Cricket graph, is it not? Come on, Anatux, you tell me. That's a Cricket graph right there. You know it is. Everybody remembers those. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I mean, it kind of follows a very similar, like, if we go back to look at Cockpit here, like, let's scroll back up here. Let's get to the main page. You kind of got the same feel going, same vibe. This is, as an aside, all of these like open source or, projects that they're like, I'm not a huge fan. And this is the same thing I got into plenty of conversations with people who are big, heavy Proxmox devotees. I wish that we could do better, guys, than just like, we list of the things on the side and then the data in the middle. Like it feels like everybody's, yeah. I mean, they're all playing, they're all reading from the same sheet of music, and that's fine. I'm guessing, and maybe some of the software engineers amongst you can tell me, I'm guessing there must be some sort of framework that's easy and open source that people can grab, and then that makes things like this a lot easier. So they can just go, oh, I want to have this menuing system, and I don't want to have to build it by hand and make it bespoke or custom. This is something I need to be able to grab. So I feel like that's why we see these sort of same, that's just like the way it looks. So let's take a look at other. So this still kind of feels like the same, like, I mean, it kind of feels like this in a way, if I'm not lying. Although these pages, the way this looks a lot like the way TrueNAS, like let me pull them. Let's go look at TrueNAS. We'll look at my TrueNAS real quick, because that's always fun. Let's go look at mine here and see. Hopefully there's not any super secrets here, but I just wanted to look here and just to compare, like, let's just go to general settings. Do these feel very similar to you guys? Like, yeah, it looks, okay. So Antitex is there. It looks like Bootstrap. So that must be a thing, because they all kind of, like, if I go to make a new data set here, and let's just say add data set, Like actually, they seem to have upgraded it, but there used to be these same like very similar sort of things. So that's obviously some sort of standard thing. So the more you know, ladies and gentlemen, the more you know. Anyway, moving on. So this has got, what do we have for features other than just storage functionality? I was hoping to see like a list of features. How about that? There it is, right there. Features. Linux, web-based admin, it's got Debian package management. I'm assuming it's apt, and service announcement. Okay, cool. Networking, volume management. So they don't support ZFS, which is fine. I mean, BetterFS is fine. So that's what I mean. It's going to get you there in the end. Anyway, plugins, antivirus, but okay. So with the Kubernetes or Compose plugin, it's possible to install containerized, Dockerized applications. So it doesn't look like, okay, so you need to pull in a plugin, which probably installs then Docker behind the scenes and does that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, you get basically all the same stuff. It doesn't look too bad. I thought that this was a pay thing, but apparently not. So that's cool. But in my quest to build something on my own, I don't know how this differs from rolling TrueNAS scale or anything else, right? Because basically it's an entire turnkey system. You just download the ISO, throw it in the box, and away you go. So it'd be nice if they made. I wish there was an ability to take GUIs like this and be like, roll your own, right? You don't need to use it. You can call it something else. Open Media Rich instead of OpenMediaVault. Yeah. So yeah, it's the same just as rolling TrueNAS for sure. Yeah, and yeah, so that's kind of one of those things. Antuck said it has K3S as an option too. I don't see a benefit. Let me showing my ignorance here. I don't see a benefit to running Kubernetes on a single host like this. What is functionally speaking, what benefit do you get over just using Docker or Podman in a situation like that? You can't like move things around if it's a single box. So is there, oh yes, there is. Actually, there is. That's called HexOS. HexOS? Let's try that. There it is. HexOS. There were a bunch of the YouTubers recently, the big ones who were talking about this and made videos about it. My understanding is that this is sitting on top of TrueNAS scale, and it's a different UI, but it's also a paid thing, which in the end, I just got done paying for a yearly subscription for pfSense Plus, and man, I tell you what, I spent like, I don't know, at least a couple weeks like wringing my hands, just like, should I make this decision? And it was after I inadvertently made my firewall blow up and I had to rebuild it. That was a fun story, but not for now. But in the end, like if you're guaranteed something out of this, like maybe you get lifetime updates and the company doesn't go insolvent and disappear. I mean, it's kind of nice, right? I don't know what it really offers beneficially over, say, TrueNAS Scale, because TrueNAS Scale is an enterprise OS and they give it away for free. So, but yeah, powered by TrueNAS. It's for all intents and purposes, I believe everything underneath is TrueNAS. So it's kind of like a reskinning, but it's also $200. Brandon said, it feels like it's meant for newbies or non-tech people. And sure. And actually, no, I take that back, because when I used to do a lot of work with TrueNAS, I mean, I made a few videos, they sent us a bunch of gear to evaluate a while back, and they're great people and they make a phenomenal piece of software. But I remember mentioning to them, especially their CEO, like, have you guys considered changing your user experience so that it's more user friendly? Because in the market that uses these, people benefit from it. And the response at the time was, well, we're enterprise down and not consumer up. And so our competition of Synology or Ugreen or TerraMaster, insert, SMB to Soho to like home NAS stuff, is all consumer up. And I remember thinking at the time, like, I'm going to say to the guy, I'm like, okay, I respect that, right? Sure. But then the thought came to mind. It's like, but why? But why? Like, why? Why does it have to be that way? That was like, if anyone has ever worked with old IBM software, like TSM, Tivoli Storage Manager, or Tivoli other stuff, like this software is so impossibly and unenjoyable to use because they always move from this, like, it's just enterprise grade down. But the companies that really excel are the ones that make a friendly user interface. Like Apple's and Androids are not from the enterprise down. They're meant to be user friendly. And granted, I know that their user scope is dramatically different, but it doesn't have to be that way. So, you know, that's kind of like, what did Antitux say here? He said, I mean, if I had to choose between Proxmox's and TrueNAS's UI, I'd take TrueNAS any of the way. Or yeah, and I don't know, Antitux, have you looked at PDM yet? I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've already rolled it, but that to me feels like the future. I feel like when PDM is in full swing, we can just use PDM, and it doesn't matter what the TrueNAS, the Proxmox UI looks like. It's running on the host. You've got this like vCenter like sort of experience. So yeah, BK, exactly. Like, don't enterprise admins deserve nice GUIs too? Yes, the answer is yes. We all do. We should all, like, is not Apple the most profitable company in the world, right? They didn't get there because they made hard products. They made products that your parents could use. I'm not saying we don't need better stuff for the enterprise, or we don't need more complicated. We need more knobs. We definitely need more knobs and more switches and levers and stuff. But it could still be nice. It could still be user friendly, right? Oops, sorry. I just completely closed that out and it was on there. So if it makes it easy and intuitive, I can't make money. Oh, oh yeah. Is that really true though? Like, if we really think about it, Ray, is it true that you can't make money if it's user friendly because they take it out? Or, I mean, because enterprise stuff, like in general, still has all the complexities of standards behind it. Let's take storage. We'll take like SAN and, you know, iSCSI or Fiber Channel, or insert, you know, whatever sort of storage connectivity you got on your SAN. Like, you still need to understand the complexities and how those things work. You can teach that stuff, but like how friendly or inviting or uninviting the user experience is, like, I mean, I don't know. Everybody's agreeing with you though, so I must be wrong. I don't know. I want it to be nice. I want to look at pretty things. I think we all deserve to look at pretty things, and maybe there should be some complex knobs behind the scenes too. I thought that VMware was pretty. I did. I thought that VMware, and I thought that like vCenter, they had made a lot of advancements in making it pretty, but it's still complicated as hell. You still need to know what you're doing. Your engineering part of it still needed to be there, and so whatever. But yeah, I apparently I'm wrong. So I completely capitulate to that. Okay, guys. Well, we are coming up on the hour, and so I wanted to just second show. Great turnout. You guys are awesome. I hope you're enjoying this. And if there's anything, yeah, thanks, Antitex. I'm going to leave this up on the screen for everyone to see. Yep, you're wrong. It's okay though. Words to live by right there. So right there. So friends, we're going to do this every week. If there's anything you want to see, like, I'm going to just pitch it again. Brandon, throw up the Discord link. Would you please just see, hit the like button. I try not to do that. I try not to be like, comment, like, and sub, you know, but going here and joining our Discord is a great way to, like, just hang out and talk about stuff. Discord's not evil. I had someone say to me a couple weeks back, like, I don't want Discord because Discord's like bad. I'm like, are we talking about the same thing? I mean, it's for video games. It's also for a lot of things. I mean, they tried to rebrand it for community, but they kind of leaned back in the video game stuff. But like, there's bad things everywhere. The internet is full of bad stuff too, but you're still on the internet. But yeah, I agree. I should, but yes. Thank you, Anitox. You're right. That's but join the Discord if you got thoughts. Oh yeah, Brandon wants me to tell you about HomeLab Gear. I have to pitch myself. We have to do this because it helps pay for the channel and all that kind of stuff, and I appreciate it. So we make parts and components that go for things. I have some on the shelf, but I don't walk away from the camera because that's weird. But where it can help you contain and store all the stuff that's in your home lab and make life organizing easier for you. And so check out homelabgear.shop. Go look at it. There's some shirts and stuff too if you just want to help support the channel. Not that I appreciate you guys being here. Links in the description too. There's Jason and others. But yeah, Levick says, he says, oh, I missed it. Oh, this thing moves too fast. Discord's not bad. Some Discord servers are bad. Exactly. Yeah, that's everything in life. But anyway, friends, we'll see you again next week. We will be back. Thank you for joining, and we will talk then. Thanks.